If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. This is your host, Dan the Beast. Alongside with me is the DVD Freak. And you guys already know, when you guys hear us, see us, you already know what that means. We're doing another 2002 pay-per-view review. But this time, we are going to be reviewing probably the peak of 2002 when it comes to pay-per-views. And we are talking about SummerSlam 2002 that took place August 25th, 2002 in the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, with an attendance of 14,797 fans. I'm pretty sure this was sold out. I'm not really too sure, but let me tell you, Nassau Coliseum, that is a big arena. Now, I was back down there back in 2017. Went there for a concert. Opening band was Volbeat. Obviously, the closing band was Metallica during Metallica's Hardwire tour. And unfortunately, it wasn't until the next day heard about Chris Cornell's passing. But anyway, that's off the wrestling subject here. But let me say something about this pay-per-view. I've always considered the 2002 SummerSlam to be the very best in the history of that annual blockbuster. Only because it really stood out, not only for just it being one of the big four pay-per-views, but because of the storytelling. And obviously, the draw here was the return of Shawn Michaels after a 4-year absence away from in-ring competition. And like I said, this was the peak of 2002, in my opinion. And yeah, Freak, what are your thoughts on this pay-per-view?
Well, first of all, this pay-per-view is sponsored by Diet Pepsi. Yeah, to me, this is kind of the peak, like you said, of 2002. You had a lot leading up to this, especially Brock Lesnar's kind of rise to victory here, his rise to the top. And, I think that's a great story was, throughout the last how many pay-per-views we've reviewed here, we did mention Brock Lesnar every time. And this was the climax to his career.
Honestly, I wouldn't even call this the climax. I would call this the boss battle. If we're playing Mortal Kombat here, this is Brock Lesnar's boss battle against The Rock. Let's just put it that way.
All right, fine. It's the Shao Kahn of WWE.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Rock's not that intimidating, but obviously this would be The Rock's last pay-per-view in 2002 before taking a few months off, obviously doing his stints in Hollywood as he's pursuing to become an actor, full-time actor, I should say. And pretty much this was his last run with the WWE Championship until 2013. So, but 2013 wasn't nothing spectacular itself. But anyway, let's get into the opening match here for 2002 SummerSlam with Kurt Angle taking on Rey Mysterio. Now, here's something so ironic. Rey Mysterio made his pay-per-view debut for SummerSlam 2002. And this is something that we've discussed in the past here on the podcast, but his son Dominic Mysterio made his pay-per-view debut this past year, also at SummerSlam. So, kind of ironic here. And what's more ironic here is this was just, I don't know, this was a pretty good opening match. And, obviously Kurt Angle's waiting for Rey Mysterio. And, you could definitely see it when it comes to Rey Mysterio's theme music. Who's that jumping out the sky? Oh, yeah, look at that. It's Rey Mysterio coming in with a flying head scissors onto Kurt Angle here. But something that really, a big pet peeve in this match for me was throughout the whole duration of this match, Rey Mysterio was in the process of just fixing his mask. I'm not sure if you saw that, but I'm not sure if that was just, oh, God.
Well, he was waiting under the ring, and he missed his cue, and he was unmasked. So he had to quickly get his mask together, because, like I said, he fucked the entire queue up, and he was under the ring. So when you saw him at the ropes there, he was still adjusting his mask. And it's similar to WrestleMania 21, where he just could not stop fiddling with that damn mask the entire time. And it affected that match's quality a lot, but this one, I don't really think it was an issue. This was still it's kind of the perfect opener. It gets the crowd pumped for the rest of the action for the remainder of the night. You got to start out with that high adrenaline, great match, and then you kind of simmer down a bit, and then, it goes back up. So, yeah.
Right. And this match ended in 9 minutes and 20 seconds. And I like how Rey Mysterio, he nails like a springboard drop kick with Kurt on the top, and then he tries to go for a top rope hurricanrana, but Kurt was able to counter that in an ankle lock, which I thought that was pretty nice. Pretty stellar way to end the match there. But yeah, this was an excellent opener, in my opinion. Rey Mysterio looked like $1 million, and Kurt Angle looked like he was the best wrestler in the world at that time. I still think he was probably one of the best technical wrestlers of all time. And as you mentioned, the crowd was hot and the action was great. So, getting into one of these backstage segments, in the back we have Stephanie McMahon, who finds Eric Bischoff in her office after she brags about her awesome SmackDown match. And, obviously this was around a time where Raw and SmackDown were butting heads instead of being all buddy-buddy, like, hey, does your guy want to come on my show and wrestle? No, this was like a legit feud. This was like Ruthless Records taking on Death Row in the 90s. This is like your Easy taking on your Dr. Dre. This is what a feud should be capable of, is where you stand your boundaries. And if you cross those boundaries, excuse my French, you're going to get fucked up. You're going to pay the consequences.
Or you'll get injected with AIDS.
Ah, damn, you had to go there. God, oh, man.
Fuck you, Suge Knight. Anyway.
Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but if you guys know, Eazy-E's my favorite rapper of all time. But
well, he was meted, so yeah.
Right. But anyway, back to the wrestling topic here. All this talk about Mortal Kombat and Def Jam and everything, thinking it's like a celebrity death match on MTV. Anyway, the next match that we had here was Chris Jericho taking on Ric Flair. Now, surprisingly, looking back in my notes and doing a little bit of research, this was Ric Flair's first SummerSlam match. Now, prior to this, he was at the 92 SummerSlam, but he didn't wrestle. This was technically Ric Flair's first SummerSlam match. Okay. And you had the King of the World taking on, the living legend. No offense to Larry Zbyszko here. But, not the best match from either guy. But, Chris Jericho continues to fall, especially during this year after being undisputed champion just a few months prior. We really wouldn't see Chris Jericho as like a top main performer till probably like 2008.
Yeah, the whole undisputed title thing with Triple H, I think, really kind of killed him for a while. And like you said, it was only really downhill from here. You know, he had a great program with Michaels in 2003, which we will get to. And then, of course, with Christian and Trish Stratus at WrestleMania 20, and then John Cena, and then he was kind of out. And he took a long-needed break and kind of came back better than ever, in my opinion, at least, in 2008. Well, 2007, 2008.
Yeah. Now, no offense to Ric Flair, but don't you find it a conspiracy every time you see a Ric Flair match, you always have to counter Charles Robinson as the senior official?
Isn't that his favorite?
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, but, you know, I just kind of find it to be a conspiracy after time when you have your favorite referee in your match. Like, oh, if it's a Ric Flair match, expect Charles Robinson, hands down. So, but overall, not the best match from either guy. So we go back to another backstage segment. We have Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman in the back, you know, bragging about what Brock did, which for some of you guys who are, familiar with watching Raw and SmackDown back in the day, Brock practically just dismantled Hulk Hogan, took his blood, his flesh, and just made it his own flesh of armor, I guess you would say.
Yeah. And then next we of course have the dream match that you never knew you wanted, but here you have it. We have Edge versus Eddie Guerrero, and I thought this was like a decent three-star match. It's above average. Obviously, if they were given 20, 25 minutes, they could put on a masterpiece. But for 11 minutes and 50 seconds, which is the longest match on the show so far, I thought they did a really good job in this match.
Let me tell you why this was a really good match. It was a good match because it had really good psychology. I wasn't really keen with Edge winning with a spear since that shoulder was worked on the entire time, which throughout the duration of the match, that was basically the main psychology, was Eddie working on the shoulder. And I love the spot where Eddie hits a frog splash on the injured arm. And, not only that, Edge just somehow he just kicks out and manages to hit a spear from out of nowhere for the win. That's the only keen thing about this match.
He could have at least sold the shoulder after he hit the spear.
Yeah.
Maybe have a quick moment where he's like, oh, fuck, but then he still gets the pin.
And, this was just the rise for not only Edge, but for Eddie Guerrero himself. Obviously back in the day, we're talking about the SmackDown 6, Angle, Mysterio, the Guerreros, Benoit, Taker. These guys can put on a stellar performance. And the fact that, Eddie Guerrero's life was cut so short. I mean, at least he was able to manage to win not only the WWE Championship, but regain some form of life back, when he went through sobriety and finally got himself checked. Because throughout 2001, 2002, back in April of 2001, he was released by WWE due to obviously substance abuse and issues in his life. And he basically just worked his way back. And obviously WWE had his eye on him. As he made his way through the independents, he made his way through Japan. He was with Ring of Honor. Fun fact, when he came back to WWE and actually won the Intercontinental Championship, he was still fulfilling bookings for Ring of Honor as he was Intercontinental Champion. So that's something that definitely holds a place. Edge, obviously, we know the route he would take in his career as he would become one of the top performers of, the 2000s. So...
With bloodshot eyes when I look at my past, I never met
Yeah, and then next up we have the underrated Americans, as I call them. Two of the most underrated guys ever, Christian and Lance Storm versus Booker T, aka Booker Tits, and Goldust for the
Oh boy.
for the WWE Tag Team titles.
The. All right. Anyway, so yeah, you know something here. This was a very forgettable team in the Un-Americans. But if you look at their resume, you have to look at the last pay per view. You know, they got a victory of not only Edge, but Hulk Hogan for the World Tag Team Championships.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the odd pairing of Booker Tits and Goldust. And I always thought their pairing worked to perfection.
Yeah, it did.
Obviously, they brought that comedy factor. Um, you know, somewhere down the line, they would win the World Tag Team Championships eventually. But you know, when it comes to the Young Americans, I feel like that's probably one of the most forgotten factions during that era. I mean, with the exceptions of guys like you and me, of course, and obviously other fans. Um, I just really don't think it lived up to the potential of being one of those top factions because yeah, they were un-American, but it's not like they were advertised as Canadians because obviously it wasn't an all Canadian group. As later on, William Regal would join the group as well.
Yeah. So overall, it's a fun little tag team match. Nothing really to write home about, but I love the chemistry. This is one of the few times I'll say I like something Booker T has done. I love the chemistry between Goldust and Booker T. You know, it's not just the comedic factor. I think they had good chemistry in the ring as well. But like I said, overall, kind of I wouldn't say forgettable, but just an average little tag match.
Yeah, it was a solid match, and it followed tag formula nicely. But obviously, throughout the duration, it does get old once in a while. And I'm not sure if you noticed this, but doing my research during Booker T's entrance with the pyro, it actually messed up the stage a little bit near like the top of the Titantron.
It was a cheap ass
Which I
stage.
kind of
It was a cheap stage, man.
right. But going into our next segment here, a little bit of a weird segment. We go to WWE New York. We cut to the world, as you can say, and Nydia picks a dude to make out in front of her boyfriend, Jamie Noble. Kind of weird if you ask me. And then you have Eric Bischoff and Stephanie, who are now shown watching in the locker room as they talk about their upcoming Intercontinental Championship match, which is another barn burner. So let's get on to that one.
Oh yeah.
Intercontinental Championship match: Chris Benoit versus Rob Van Dam. And I was watching the network version of this pay per view, but obviously they got like the belt logo is still blurred for some reason. I'm not sure why, even though they're pretty much comfortable with blaring the F out. But boy, this match, I praise this. And I believe this was the only time during this tenure that the Intercontinental Championship was on SmackDown.
Yeah. And this to me is my favorite match of the night. Shawn Michaels and Triple H, I do think that match is very overrated, but it's definitely probably match of the night. But for us traditionalists, this match is great. RVD and Chris Benoit, another kind of dream match you never knew you needed, and here you have it. It's interesting to see RVD go over Chris Benoit. Not something you think you would see, and I'm not really sure if that was the right move, but still, this is just a phenomenal match. Like I said, this is my match of the night, and yeah, it's interesting seeing the Blue Brand have the Intercontinental title. I don't know. Ruthless Aggression era for me, IC title was always Raw, so it's
Yeah.
I think I prefer it on Raw personally, but
Which is why I found it so weird at the time, because I'm sitting there like, this early version of the Intercontinental Championship during the brand split, you have the IC title on SmackDown. I was like, as much as it looked good, blue title on a blue brand, it definitely has to remain. It has to remain on Raw. That's the flagship title. That's the secondary flagship title for the flagship show. But
and
overall, when it comes to
we should mention this is after it was unified as well.
yes, I believe it was unified at No Mercy, as we had the match between Kane and Triple H. We'll get into later on within the podcast. But
No, I'm saying
yeah,
this is after the European Intercontinental.
that's right. Okay,
Yeah.
was that that was the ladder match with Jeff Hardy, right?
Yep, Jeff Hardy and Aubrey D. They unified the European Intercontinental on the. I think that was the first Raw of the Bischoff era, if I'm correct.
Either that, or I believe it was the Hardcore Championship match with RVD and Tommy Dreamer, as that was another match that the titles were unified.
Okay. Because I remember they had both titles on the line in that ladder match.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, funny thing is, they don't recognize RVD as the last European champion, which I kind of find pretty weird.
Yeah, and it's interesting Jeff Hardy's nowhere to be even seen on this card. He went from being European champion and the last pay-per-view, and he's just gone. Like, we don't really see much of him unless it's, like, kind of just random scramble matches somewhere.
Pretty much. Overall, as you said, this was a really good match, but I did feel like this was one-sided, as RVD really barely got any offense until the end. And, with that being said, Benoit Dominic makes a good match, and even though the ending was kind of abrupt, I enjoyed it. It definitely wasn't a bad match. And something that you don't often see is RVD without a ponytail.
Yeah. Unless he's in the hot tub with all those fake blue models.
Yeah. Or his girlfriend. Anyway, we go on to a big man versus big man match. I didn't necessarily like this match. I kind of thought this match was pretty slow. But we had Test taking on The Undertaker, and this was Undertaker fresh off of his heel turn. His heel run with the WWE Undisputed Championship, and basically Undertaker turned face, and I don't think there was a better way for the American badass to do that than to face an un-American. So.
Yeah, this is one of those, RVD and Chris Benoit, you have that high adrenaline title match. And this Undertaker and Test match was put in between the Intercontinental and the Street Fights. So, yeah, this was the bathroom break. This was so everyone could go get some popcorn for the next match, get something to eat, get prepared mentally. That's all this match is. That's really all this is. It's 8 minutes and 18 seconds, literally. You could have put a women's match here, which is very interesting. No women's matches on this pay-per-view.
Oh.
That's very rare. This might be one of the few I've ever seen, at least of like the modern era.
Was there now that I recall, wasn't there a women's match during Sunday Night Heat before the main pay-per-view?
All I have for Sunday Night Heat is Spike Dudley and Stevie Richards.
Huh.
Which, if you want to call that a women's match, you can.
You pretty much can. That's a featherweight match right there.
That fucking flyweight.
Now, on to what I would say is the main event here. I would call this the main event. This is my main event. This is what I would pay money to see. You have an unsanctioned street fight between Shawn Michaels and Triple H. When you want to talk about WWE attempting to make a great story, this is a perfect example of storytelling. Obviously, you have your background story. Oh, these guys used to be the best of friends. Shawn Michaels, he dropped the ball. Then you have Triple H, who basically ran the new and improved DX. And Shawn was nowhere to be found for, the next 4 years, unless, Shawn Michaels was in a role of being the commissioner. But as of an in-ring competitor, he was pretty much absent, despite making a few. I think he had like one independent match, probably like 2 years prior to this event. But obviously, he wasn't at 100%, and obviously, he lacked the confidence. But it just looked like Shawn never left. The way Shawn came back, the way he just put on a stellar performance, it was hard to believe that Shawn was ever gone.
Okay. Hear me out. This is what I would have done. Have Shawn Michaels away from TV in 2002. Nowhere to be seen. No lead up, no build up to this at all. Have a surprise return at the Rumble. Win the Rumble, face World Heavyweight Champion Triple H at WrestleMania 19. I think that would have been better. I think this match should have waited till WrestleMania. I don't think it should have been a street fight, but it worked as a street fight for SummerSlam. But I think Shawn Michaels should have made this crazy, kind of like how Edge did this year, this crazy return. Everyone thought he was retired, injured, drugged up, whatever. He wins the Rumble, and then you have him face Triple H. And at the end of the day, I think I really don't think Brock Lesnar needed to win the Rumble in 2003. He was already world champion before that. So it's kind of an odd choice. Like he already beat the fucking Rock at SummerSlam. Like what more do you need for him to go to WrestleMania? So for once, I will say Shawn Michaels should have won the Rumble, and then you kind of delay that storyline until WrestleMania. I think that's what I would have done.
And if you guys recall the original storyline for this, the original storyline was Shawn Michaels was the leader of the NWO, which was still existed at that time. And basically, Shawn Michaels had given Triple H till vengeance to make the decision of whether you're with us or you're against us.
Nexus?
And obviously, no. Oh, well, you know what? I tried so hard not to go there. I was like, oh, he's going to come up with a pun. You know what? Obviously, that storyline folded as Eric Bischoff came into the fold as the new Raw general manager. And I think this was at a time where WWE was basically running out of options, and they just called for drastic and desperate measures where they were like, hey, Shawn, like, how you feeling? You think you could come back? This was only supposed to be a one-time thing. This was only supposed to be Shawn versus Triple H, and then boom, this would have been Shawn's final match, and then we probably would have seen him inducted in like 2004, 2005. Probably would have never seen that World Heavyweight Championship triple threat match that I adore so much from WrestleMania 20.
We'll get there. But it also would have saved us from his poopy pants at Survivor Series. That's something I don't care, dude. That is something I could never get out of my head. All right.
Honestly, when he showed up at a Survivor Series with the shit tights and the Bob Mom haircut, I was like, what the fuck is this?
The shites.
It was horrible. You could tell he was definitely cleaned up. It was like he don't got the beard no more. He got his smile back. He goes on to win the first ever Elimination Chamber, wins the World Heavyweight Championship, and then boom, you lose it a month later. Like some build up. He basically got the Hulk Hogan treatment that year.
Oh God, don't get me started. We'll get to that rant when we get to Survivor Series. But I think it was really smart to have this match end with a roll-up. I think a lot of people were pissed about that because they're like, oh, you have this epic match, but then you have a roll-up. I think it makes perfect sense to have a roll-up.
Right.
It shows that we're not done yet. There was no decisive winner. This feud would start up again in 2004, and one of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches, too, at Bad Blood 2004. But we'll get there as well. So, yeah, they were far from over. as cool as it would have been to see Shawn Michaels hit the Sweet Chin Music one more time, I also think the roll-up was an indicator that this might not be a one-time thing.
And this was definitely back in the day when people used to sell the super kick as a finisher.
Yep.
But we're not going to get into that topic of discussion, as everybody probably knows what I'm referring to. Anyway, obviously Sean's ability to tell a story is nearly unmatched, and it was basically damn near perfection. So if I had to give this a rating for a match, I would give this like a solid 4 stars.
Yeah, I'd say a 4. Are we doing out of 5? I'd like a 5 scale.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I usually rate every match on a 5 scale. I would say a solid 4. I don't really think there's more than that. But it also ran 27 minutes and 50 seconds, so no matches even came close to hitting that time. So this was clearly the main event, but I am a firm believer the title goes on last no matter what, except for WrestleMania 18. But that's a different rant we already covered. So yeah, this was obviously the pay-per-view seller, and it's very interesting to me, the DVD cover, which I have it here. They didn't include Triple H or Shawn Michaels on the cover, which is very interesting. You would think, you're at Circuit City back in 2002, good old Circuit City. You pass SummerSlam DVD, you see Shawn Michaels on, you're like, holy shit, he's back. They want to buy that. So it's interesting to me that you just have The Rock and Brock Lesnar. And I will say, this is one of the worst DVD covers of all time. Tell you right now. Jesus.
Obviously, Vince was high on his new big guy, so he had to put the big guy on the cover here. But
which you should.
Yeah, I really don't blame you. I mean, if anything, they could have probably added like Shawn Michaels like in the background of like the cover, just indicating like, hey, he's back. But
well, he's on the back doing the elbow drop. But
there's a spoiler right there for you guys.
Let there be light, sound, it's just a Bill rocking band. And the music was good, and the music was loud. And the singer turned and he said to the crowd, oh, let them be right. Yeah, 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 oh, yeah. Hey.
Anyway, going on to the final match of this evening, we have the WWE Undisputed Championship with The Rock defending his championship against the 2002 King of the Ring winner who advanced to get this opportunity at the title, Brock Lesnar. And obviously, Brock Lesnar would end up becoming the youngest WWE champion in history at that time. This match came up in 16 minutes. And honestly, this was a pretty good main event. I mean, the changing of the guard here as, Brock wins the belt and the fans wanted it for sure. Because obviously everybody's been waiting to see what Brock was able to do next after his reign of destruction tour, I guess you would say, since Backlash after decimating Jeff Hardy. But
Poor
honestly,
Jeff Hardy.
But you know what? This was an awesome back and forth, and each guy played to their strengths, in my opinion.
Yeah, the crowd was very back and forth here because a lot of people still liked The Rock, and a lot of other people were like, no, screw him. He left. He's doing movies now. And that's kind of more my boat. But, I'm not a Rock fan. Shout out to everyone that doesn't like me for that. But, yeah, I don't like The Rock. So, I don't know. With this one, it's great to see Brock kind of have that, you would almost call it, for a casual fan, a surprise win. But for hardcore fans, they knew Brock was winning. But for a lot of casual people, they're just like, he just got here, and he's the world champion already, and he beat The Rock in their second biggest premier pay-per-view of the year. And this was back when SummerSlam was a big deal still. And, this is about the biggest push you could possibly have. It's The Rock at SummerSlam, and he won clean. So, and like I said before, I love that the King of the Ring, the winner, got the opportunity. Because nowadays, whenever you win something in WWE, you get a pat on the back, and then you lose the next night on Raw. That's basically what you have now. Whereas back then, King of the Ring meant something. You had a tournament leading up to this SummerSlam. This SummerSlam was being built upon for months. Great storytelling. It's long-term storytelling with Brock Lesnar. you were leading up from WrestleMania. That's almost half the calendar year for WWE. So yeah, I just love everything about this match.
Yeah. And obviously this would be, as I said earlier in the show, the Rock's final pay-per-view before taking an absence for a couple months until returning for the No Way Out 2003 pay-per-view for a Hogan Rock 2 match, which we're not going to get into just yet.
Oh, we will eventually.
But going into this pay-per-view, the way I would view this pay-per-view is virtually perfect. The best SummerSlam of all time, in my opinion. And it's probably one of the top 10 pay-per-views that WWE has offered. And I want to say nothing is under 2 stars here. Because I just, everything was entertaining here. And, Sean's comeback is glorious. And the main event is awesome, and that's just scratching the surface. You have a brand new WWE champion, something to look forward to, something fresh, something to really launch the Ruthless Aggression era.
All right, so the letter grade. Let me build this one up a little bit, okay? Because I'm excited. I'm known for being harsh and realistic. Out of WWE's 50-year history, I have only given 2 A+ grades, ever. This is one of them. This show gets an A+ from me.
Okay. And I definitely want to disagree. But I wouldn't say it was... Yeah. You know what? I'm just going to have to agree with you. I'm going to have to give this an A+.
All right.
I don't really see no flaws. And, for anybody to sit there and say, well, it didn't have a women's match, fuck the women's match. You really think I'm going to sit there and say, yeah, come on now. I think that was the best thing they could possibly do, was not include a women's match at the time. Because let's just face it, the women wrestlers or athletes, I should say, in that time are nothing compared to the women wrestlers today. Enough said.
And another argument that people are going to try to throw at me, or throw at us, I'm going to squash that real quick. Undertaker and Test. That match was not great. It was not good. But you have to understand, this is a wrestling show. It was there for one reason and one reason only. Pacing. It was a perfectly paced pay-per-view. Not every match is going to be good. Not every match should be good. I will argue that. This, this is WWE. This isn't New Japan where every match is a fucking masterpiece. This is WWE. And it's perfectly paced, so Undertaker and Test, that's not a flaw to me. It was there for a reason, and it's actually one of the better bathroom break matches you'll see. So it's better than some shit women's match that's going to be on there.
And you know what? To add on to that, now that I think about it, this was a slow pace for Undertaker. This is Undertaker giving a break before transitioning into his next big feud, which would be Brock Lesnar for the Undisputed Championship, which he will take on and the next pay-per-view that we'll be reviewing, Unforgiven.
Yeah. Which I've actually never seen that pay-per-view, believe it or not.
I've seen it a couple times. It's not bad. I mean, I tend to go back and I used to go back and tend to watch it, throughout the time, only because it was a 2002 pay-per-view and I found it better than the current product at the time. So, other than that, can't go wrong with anything from 2002. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's the only 2002. That's one of the only Ruthless Aggression pay-per-views I've never seen. One of the only ones. So, yeah. That's a rare A+ there. It's shocking.
Yep.
And
it
only goes downhill from here.
I don't think we'll ever see anything that will top that ever again, with that pay-per-view at least.
You think we'll ever get an A+ WWE pay-per-view ever again?
You know what? The day I see another A plus WWE pay per view is the day that we get the crowd back. That's the way I see it. Because I think once we have a scheduled show where we know we're actually going to get a live attendance, I think WWE hopefully, is going to thoroughly go through their bookings and say, hey, let's book this. Let's give them what they want, even though we already heard it like 2 or 3 years ago, and we still never fucking got it.
Well, the only other A plus I ever gave was WrestleMania 31. It's the only one. This and WrestleMania 31 to me are the only A plus pay per views. That doesn't make it the greatest WrestleMania of all time. That just means it was an A plus show. You know, there's different tiers of what's good and what's not. So what some would consider the greatest WrestleMania of all time, 19 for me, 17 for most other people. They're to me, they're low A shows. That's just kind of how it is.
As much as I like 18, I say 20 for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's I can't wait to review 20. That's my favorite moment in wrestling history is that shot with Eddie and Benoit. Whew, that's going to be a tough one to rewatch.
Anyway, guys, before we head out of here, I would just like to advertise the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. An interview with Rick Santo as we had the returning Bull Dread on the EAPW Intercontinental Champion. Also, me and Rick also conducted an interview a couple days ago with none other than Mr. Technical Barry Horowitz, and I'm going to pat myself on the back, even if I did gimmick infringement. I don't care. So, but anyway, guys, Freak, give us your social media info. Where can we find you?
Type in the DVD Freak on Google, and there's your list. Type it in.
Little Scott Hall there for you. But anyway, guys, if you guys want to find me, you can find me on all forms of social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. But of course, you can find me on YouTube at Dan the Beast 94. And be sure to hit that subscribe button, especially if you're going to be watching my channel and you're not subscribed. What are you doing? Hit that button. And of course, subscribe to the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. And until next time, guys, you guys have a great night.